Destiny: Rise of Iron is the fourth and presumably final paid expansion for the video game Destiny. For those who are just joining us, this is not a gaming channel. In fact, Destiny is the only video game I've picked apart and dissected in video form, for some reason. If you're not interested in this video, I understand. Regular content will be returning after this upload. However, if you are interested in video game storytelling or just storytelling in general, and over-analytical videos similar in format to The Search for the Worst, you may get something out of this even if you don't care about Destiny. So, I praised and criticized the previous expansion, The Taken King, for various different things. And while this video may not be quite as in-depth or detailed, that also reflects the short but sweet nature of this expansion. And yes, I'm still not a fan of using the word expansion to describe these DLC packs, but what are you gonna do? Rise of Iron's major strength is also its biggest weakness. It's very much more of the same. The Taken King did a good job completely overhauling a myriad of flawed mechanics, storytelling mishaps, and a list of other things you can all see explained in my previous video. I say it all the time, the foundation is all there, so I guess they figured it would have been unnecessary to fuck with it, and decided to just give us more of that thing that we like. At this point, Destiny does have solid game mechanics, satisfying loot and leveling systems, and the whole "I'll just play one more mission" type of attitude it promotes. It's honestly quite frustrating to talk about because by all accounts I really shouldn't have that much to complain about at this point. The content itself is fine. It's more Destiny for the people who want more Destiny. But as someone who is desperate for Bungie to deliver memorable storytelling moments like I remember having in their older games, I can't help but feel disappointed with Rise of Iron.
You just need to let go of the past.
I refuse to let go of the past, leave me alone. The storytelling in Destiny is completely lackluster and forgettable. It's been that way since the very beginning, and admittedly slowly but surely improving. Although at this point it does feel like it's at a standstill, which is upsetting because with a little more focus and direction it really could be quite special. It's like going onto Domino's and picking all of your favorite toppings for your perfect pizza, but then never following through and actually ordering the damn thing. And honestly, it might sound arrogant to say, but I think a lot of people just can't see it through the veil of extremely high production value and quality game making. My point is, it's easy to be complacent. My Taken King review had quite a few more dislikes than my normal videos, and I think that's because people are so invested into the game at this point that they take any slight criticism almost as blasphemy. The comment section in my last video was effectively the text equivalent of a group of people covering their ears and screaming la 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 la, so they didn't actually listen to a single fucking word that was said. How about you stop being a fucking moron and stop and question why I'm spending so much fucking time making videos and playing this video game? This is my third video on Destiny. If I really thought it was an atrocious, unforgivable mess, I wouldn't waste my time on it. It's okay to be critical of the things you like, and I do tend to amplify my feelings in a hyperbolic sort of way for the sake of entertainment. And on that note, let's start with a fucking awful story of this DLC. Rise of Iron introduces a set of characters called the Iron Lords, an ancient group of super badass guardians who defended something from someone. The DLC begins with a glossy CG cutscene that we have no agency over. It is quite visually interesting, except we have no investment into any character in the scene. I guess because it's supposed to be the setup for what's about to transpire in the story of this DLC, which I suppose is forgivable. This guy is Lord Saladin, the last surviving Iron Lord. He's the main quest giver and effectively the main character. It's implied that this woman, who's being infected by this stuff, is important to Lord Saladin because of the expression on his face as he runs towards her as she blows herself up.
Some know the legend, but no one truly knows how the Iron Lords died their final deaths. That was something you had to be there for, to witness, to remember, to know even heroes can die, and survival is not always a victory.
Lord Saladin's dialogue and performance, it's just awful. I'm sorry, but if all I'm thinking about the whole time every time he talks is, why does he sound so unenthused? Why is this voice acting so fucking bad? Why did he say that utterly ridiculous line that when you think about it for a second is completely fucking retarded?
Guardian, my fellow Iron Lords died fighting to keep Siva contained. Since that day, I have kept watch for its return, for the day we'd be required once again.
So effectively, this is a situation similar to the Flood from Halo, a very common kind of virus trope in science fiction. A group of people who are mostly all dead now, trapped away a weird virus thing that mutates living matter, so it's inevitably your job to murder it back into hiding.
A group of Fallen has captured Fellwinter Peak. My team and I are en route, but we won't get there in time. I need you to secure the observatory at the top. It is imperative the Fallen do not establish a foothold on that mountain.
You know, I really want to give props to this little flying in intro. It's not exactly a new thing for Destiny particularly, but I'm just going to let you into a little secret. I did not have high hopes for this DLC at all. I originally planned to never even buy it out of protest, but I guess this game has too tight a grip on me. Something about the way your Guardian is introduced in this scene really made my ears prick up. I expect it's mostly the excellent use of music, but just seeing your character animated so well and standing there like a badass really gets you ready to fight this shit. So yeah, it's your job to climb up an abandoned outpost on this mountain to see what some sneaky bad guy Fallen dudes are up to. It is refreshing to see new environments because Bungie's artists and art direction are so fucking good, almost to the point where it makes up for the lack of character in the actual writing. Basically, the point of this mission is to liberate an Iron Temple so it can become a new social space for the new quest givers to live. It's quite nice to contextualize and make it known that it's basically thanks to you that this area is safe now, despite there being like 20 trillion of you running around.
I don't understand. If there's something so important up there, why wasn't the Vanguard protecting the temple all these years?
This place and its secrets are my responsibility.
I know I mentioned this like a second ago, but I really cannot get over how dry, stoic, and boring Lord Saladin is. A good voice actor can ooze character and imply depth.
Isn't this Eris Morn's ship?
Is it? Huh. You know, you're a true artist. Can't even see the join.
And with the help of proper delivery and well-written dialogue. But this guy is just kind of a boring asshole. Every time he opens his mouth, it makes me fucking sigh. I just want to go to sleep.
We swore we would do anything to protect the last city.
Okay.
I thought his dialogue was so bad at points that I actually audibly sighed at how fucking terrible it was at times.
Oh, Iron Lords died.
Okay.
The mission ends by making you fight a weird Redux version of a boss that's been in the game since vanilla Destiny, which makes sense contextually, I suppose, but it's not very exciting as a way of introducing you to this new content. Here's this boss you've already fought 20 trillion times, but a little bit different.
All this trouble to break into an old temple?
Even old wolves still bite. Shiro, what's your status?
Circling around to make sure the area is clear. Be there in a sec.
Well done, Guardian.
It was this cutscene that really made me realize one of the biggest, most inherent problems with the way Destiny conveys its story. And it's just the fact that your character never does anything. Think about it. What does your character ever do in a cutscene apart from just stand there and get talked to or talked at? Stand there and get talked at. Stand there and get talked at. Stand there and get talked at. Stand there and get talked at.
Stand there and get talked at. Stand there and get talked at. Stand there and get talked at. Stand there and get talked at. Stand there and get talked at. Stand there and get talked at.
Okay.
The only good character interactions that exist in this game are from scenes that you have absolutely nothing to do with. You're basically just a goon who's just ordered around and used as a pawn for other people's gain. I know that people will argue that this is because you actually play the things that are supposed to be important, but I don't really feel very important. In the game, I feel completely interchangeable, honestly. Like, if I didn't get it done, I'm sure one of the other millions of Guardians will probably get it done just fine. It's that complete lack of urgency because you have no sway over anything. Another big problem is that we're thrown into the Destiny universe at the most uninteresting time possible. The reason hardcore Destiny fans rave about the lore and those stupid cards is because all the stuff that happened in the past is so much more interesting than the ruin you're thrown into now. Remember this cutscene from the beginning? Not surprised if you didn't, it's very forgettable. But how much more exciting would it be if you were actually playing as this guy, and you were actually attached in some way to all these characters who got left behind and die in an honorable sacrifice that we're supposed to care about? It's another example of the game's inherent design, completely holding back anything interesting storytelling-wise. Imagine if the first mission of vanilla Destiny was you exploring Mars and stumbling across the Traveler. not in a stupid cutscene. Like, you were actually playing it. What if you weren't just constantly standing around being told everything that happened in the past by people you don't care about, and you actually took part in all of these wars and events and rich lore that exist in the universe? So instead of it just being told to you, it's actually happening to you. But no, we have to be able to drive around big empty maps together. That's what's important. Co-op. Oh, I want to go on the map and see people running around. That's really important. Why does the campaign have to be completely limited to your empty character with no personality? Why can't we just get a real campaign where shit actually happens? Surely there has to be a better way of doing this. I just want to care about this fucking universe that's presented to me. I love science fiction. I love the design. The world seems cool, but they're not letting me get attached to anything other than the memories I make with other players in fucking co-op. And that's like when my co-op partner says, 21, and we all start giggling because we're fucking 4 years old. Anyway, I got a little sidetrack there. Let's carry on.
The temple is secure. Now we can...
Zero, get a lockup.
I just picked up... Wait. Multiple impacts near the wall in Sector 17.
They're attacking the sensor grid.
They must know where Siva is. Guardian, go to the Cosmodrome immediately. If Sepix escapes, the Fallen won't be our only problem.
Now we head to the Cosmodrome again. You know, the place Vanilla Destiny started, but this time it's got some snow on it. Some snow on it this time. As you make your way inside this giant wall, it does become more apparent that things are changing. You find this weird, gross, veiny red virus shit on the floor.
It's like what was on Sepix, but if I didn't know any better, I'd say this stuff is consuming everything around it.
That is Siva. With the proper direction, it could create anything a civilization would need. At least in theory.
So this stuff's called SIVA, S-I-V-A, a nanotechnology that is capable of breaking down any existing matter so it can do something. It can do something. I think the idea is that it's a dangerous technology that always gets out of control once you try to harness it. It's weird science fiction mumbo-jumbo that honestly doesn't matter. What does matter though is that it's effectively an excuse to add some pizzazz to an otherwise plain and boring map. The bright red veiny looking tendrils of this stuff works really well against the abandoned snowy landscape. Again, Bungie's environmental artists doing an incredible job as usual. It is quite interesting to see some areas you've visited countless times before completely devastated by this SIVA stuff, and all of this scene is basically set up for the new area they're about to introduce. And I suppose for what it is, I suppose this is well done. Once you hack a thing...
Something weird incoming. These Fallen are different. They're augmented with some sort of technology, like Sepix.
You're introduced to the new enemy type. It's Fallen with the Siva shit all over them. They're augmented, so now they shoot red instead of whatever they shot before. Once you clear that mess up, now you're invited to the new social area, where you meet a myriad of new characters who all spout exposition at you. Next, you finally head to the new area in the Cosmodrome called the Plague Lands.
This isn't a simple smash and grab. They're on a mission. At first, the Vanguard wasn't particularly concerned. At least, not until the Devils decided to move back into the Cosmodrome. Now the Devils are shifting a massive amount of resources to an area nearby that's been dark for centuries.
The fact that it's kind of crudely slapped onto the edge of this already existing map actually does it a disservice, because it constantly gives you the impression that you're somewhere you've already been before, and not in a good way. It just feels like rehashing, treading the same ground again. I don't quite understand why they didn't just add an ice planet to the galaxy map or some shit, just to kind of set it apart a little bit more, so it feels like its own expansion, worthy of the name. But objectively, the design of this area is about the same as the previous ones. It's visually stunning and interesting. The game's atmosphere and mood once again proving to be the main thing that carries it. You destroy a bunch of turrets the Siva Fallen have taken over and the mission ends. They basically abandoned everything I praised the Taken King for, in terms of what they did with mission variation. It's very much back to running through a level, shooting everything you see, and not much more than that. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing per se, but Destiny is really lacking another gameplay hook. Like, oh, I don't know, vehicles or using your spaceship for something other than loading screens? There's another just really awful cutscene where you stand in a room and get talked at for a bit, while various blanks are filled in through long, awkward monologues that are incredibly bland.
This may not make sense to you, but it took your fight to remind me that immortality is not the same as invincibility.
I don't understand.
Also, I have to admit, I've changed my mind on Nolan North as the Ghost. I still think he's better than Peter Dinklebot was, but there's something about the naive way he's playing his character that's really starting to get on my nerves at this point. I do think that Peter Dinklage actually has a better fitting voice for the role of a knowledgeable robot thing, but his direction and dialogue just paled in comparison to a veteran voice actor like North.
When the ghosts first found us, those who were chosen were blessed with power, but not wisdom. The Iron Lords came together in search of a solution to mankind's struggles. Instead, we found Siva. We dreamt of using Siva to build starships, colonies. We would become what the Traveler always believed we could be.
But something happened.
Siva had been lost to time. When Temur tracked it to the Cosmodrome, we thought our quest was finally over. Siva would be ours for the taking. Rasputin responded. More than 100 Iron Lords entered the Plague Lands. Only 9 reached the replication chamber. But since we were chosen by the Traveler and our cause was just, we were certain the day would be ours. Until Siva took control. It infected our weapons, our armor. The corruption puppeted us against one another. In the end, Yolder sealed the chamber with the Iron Lords inside, rather than let Siva escape. The battle was won. Heroes died. And our mistakes stayed here.
But Rasputin survived.
This is not Rasputin. But neither is it something I know how to fight. They are using Siva in ways we never even imagined.
How would the Fallen have learned more about Siva than the Iron Lords? Or better yet, where did they learn?
They haven't mastered Siva yet. This is all still new to them. See Tyra. She studied Siva's origins. If there's a way to track the Fallen's discoveries, she will know where to look. This is all still new to them.
Jesus, this voice actor just totally ruins anything that could interest me about this character. I just can't get over how bad his delivery is. Just because this guy has a deep smoker voice doesn't mean he's automatically cool and interesting. It's a shame too, because this is basically the first character to ever get the smallest modicum of development. Next you head to Mars to go to some archive to find a way to stop Siva or some shit on a map that's existed since vanilla. Yawn. It's a fucking boring filler mission that reminds me way too much of the way they originally designed Destiny's missions. Now it's time to descend into the replication chamber to attempt to stop Siva once and for all. Finally, things are starting to ramp up. You really get to explore and see most of this new area in the mission, and the deeper you delve, the more visually interesting the design gets. I'm honestly kind of excited for this now. We're going into this place where countless people have died all those years ago. Now we're going to see if we can do a better job. You actually really wonder what you're going to find in there. And the design of this area is really fucking cool, by the way.
We were touched by the light. I didn't even know someone with the Traveler's gift could die. Until they did.
Ooh. Let's just ignore that fucking wince-worthy line of dialogue and continue into this area because it looks cool.
Those things on the ceiling. I'm detecting DNA. They're human.
Human? That's not possible.
Oh shit, this is actually really fucking interesting right here.
What's happening?
No, it can't be.
So Siva has taken over all of these Iron Lords that died all those years ago and morphed them into these horrible nightmare creatures. You actually get to take that awesome axe from all the promotional material and fight these creepy mutant abominations in a pretty challenging and unexpected confrontation. Then once you defeat them, you initiate the self-destruct and have to sprint as fast as you can out of the tomb. Matched with the music and the explosions, this is actually a really cool scene. You do feel like you're doing something important. You've just done something no one else could do. It is a little strange how, by myself, I've been able to do what over 100 of these Iron Lords couldn't.
More than 100 Iron Lords entered the Plague Lands. Only 9 reached the replication chamber.
But whatever. I tell you what though, man. Now that these Siva mutants have been introduced, I wonder where the story's gonna go next.
Well done, my young wolf. Siva is gone, and the Iron Lords are at peace. Return to the Iron Temple. You have earned your reward.
What do you mean it's been defeated? That's not the end of the story, right? Surely not. You can't just introduce an interesting concept like that and end it there. Can you?
The Siva replicator is destroyed.
Approach. There was a time that only Iron Lords carried these blades.
Oh.
There are many like this in our armory, but this one is new.
This really is the end.
It is yours, young wolf. You are the first of a new generation. Take your place as an Iron Lord.
Come on, man, what the fuck is this? So that's the end of the campaign. The entire thing. I totaled how much actual mission gameplay there is. And do keep in mind that I played this solo and considerably slowly. I calculated that removing loading screens and pointless social area interactions, but including cutscenes, I was actually playing and experiencing the campaign for a total of about 1 hour and 20 minutes. And that's including me dying right at the end of the boss fight, which I had to repeat. And with that totally fucking garbage rehash filler mission on Mars. Oh, let's be real. Let's be fucking real. This whole quest, this whole story, this is basically what a side mission should be. This is what you'd expect as something that isn't even the main campaign in something like The Witcher 3. A fun little distraction you can do when you want a break from the main story. And this right here is why I have a problem with using the word expansion. I mean, technically they expanded the Cosmodrome area we've been to endless times. But Jesus Christ, come on, you're stretching here, guys. This visual metaphor summarizes Destiny better than anything I could describe to you. Bungie has wrung the towel so fucking dry at this point that it's crusty. Let's think about the content now comparatively to when the game launched. 2 years later, 2 whole years later, we have one considerable new area that you can't even use vehicles in because it's so small, a total of 6 places to do worthless patrols in, 2 new social areas which effectively do nothing, not a single new enemy type, and no, I don't count the Taken or the Siva Fallen, more on that in a second, a handful of new strikes that mostly take place in areas that already exist in the patrol spaces, with bosses that mostly are made up of just enlarged versions of regular enemies, and with the first 2 DLC drops having campaigns so forgettable I couldn't tell you a single detail of anything that happened. And bear in mind, it does seem pretty fucking obvious that the Season Pass content was stuff that was already finished or at least worked on before launch of vanilla. I mean, just look at trailers from before the game's original release that actually shows what turned out to be what they used as DLC content. So let me just pose a rhetorical question. So what the fuck have they been doing all this time? Fondling their fucking balls? Counting our pennies? It's not like this content has been free either, or paid for by microtransactions or something. No, instead they get the best of both worlds, meaning they charge for every significant content drop, and we're talking not small amounts of money either, on top of having microtransactions which I'm sure are bringing in significant amounts of revenue for Activision in the studio. If you actually break down how much money someone who's been playing from launch has spent on Destiny, taking the $60 from vanilla, not including the possible special or collector's editions or anything like that, $35 for the season pass, $40 for the Taken King, and $25 for Rise of Iron, that's $160 minimum you've had to pay to stay up to date with Destiny. And that's disregarding possible expenditure on microtransactions or special editions, which vanilla and the Taken King had, which is effectively the equivalent of paying about $6.66 a month, which is a fucking weird coincidence. But it's effectively the same as paying for an MMO or any other type of online game. But what other game could get away with content this sparse, as well as basically having a subscription through forced paid DLC? Is it just because it's a shooter that it gets away with it? Because we're already used to overpriced empty DLC for FPS games? I don't know. Maybe. The mileage Destiny has managed to squeeze and pilfer from its vanilla form is honestly quite impressive, if it wasn't so fucking irritating. I certainly hope other developers don't try to copy the success of this game with the stingy design practices. It seems obvious to me. If you want to limit the amount of content in your repetitive, grindy MMO shooter hybrid thing, then you cannot undervalue the importance of variation. I mentioned earlier that I didn't count the Taken or Siva Fallen as new enemies, because in my opinion, they aren't. Sure, the Taken behave slightly differently, but guess what? They're reused character models with a slightly different look. Sure, it makes sense in-universe, but they made us pay for this shit, and we still haven't even had moth people. The exact same principle applies with the Siva Fallen. It's just Fallen with Siva on it. They don't act any differently. How many times can you repackage the same enemies before more people start to take note and complain? Look, it does make sense to asset flip to save dev time. I understand that. But the only 2 times we've gotten more enemies is in paid DLC. I'm not even asking for much, just chuck a few extra spikes, wings, claws, fangs on the enemies you already have, and just add them into the game for free. Just stop being so fucking stingy about it. Also, fucking add moth people. I'm not gonna stop asking until we get moth people. If the game was infinitely varied and had procedurally generated elements that were different every time, I could forgive a lot of the staleness of the game. I mentioned earlier, but Destiny is really lacking an extra gameplay hook or two. Give us some kind of vehicle missions, mini games, or just anything to break up the constant shooting. Go in a room, shoot. Scan something, shoot. Walk forward, shoot. It's just constant fucking shooting all the time. Variation, I can't stress it enough. So with everything I've said in this video, you're probably going to assume that I despise this DLC. Well, no, it's well made, incredibly polished. Apparently there are even rumors that it was even shambled together in a very short amount of time as well. But for what it is, in terms of the systems and hooks that are already in place, it's just more of the same content we've come to expect. The pudding after the main course. If you like Destiny, you're gonna like this. If you don't like Destiny, you're not gonna like this. Simple. And all of this goes without even mentioning the fucking fantastic raid, which I swear is where all the work goes. The raid tells an infinitely more interesting story than any fucking boring Destiny cinematic could, but the barrier to entry is so high, you can't just casually play a raid. It's an entire ordeal that can take hours of planning and looking for people. It seems strange that they clearly pour so much work into an activity I bet only a minority of the player base even get to engage in. They did do a good job of making rewards more satisfying in general. The whole challenge activity book is a good idea, and not to mention the music, which is stellar as always. My favorite track being Brave the Storm. Let me play you a little segment. You know, the thing that's keeping me going is that I have this really strong feeling that Bungie is just playing for time, doing what little they can get away with to distract us while the majority of the studio is hard at work on Destiny 2, the one they have to prove everything with. It's their final chance, at least for me. Pretty sure I said that before, but I actually mean it this time. I don't want to describe my affection for this universe as Stockholm Syndrome anymore. I want to be able to point at real things I can actually say are good and encourage people to try for themselves because it's worthwhile. Or maybe all of this is just me being optimistic, who knows? Only time will tell. If my next Destiny video has something along the lines of, "They did it," in the title, you'll know they succeeded a little bit. I'd like to thank you for making it this far in the video if you have. I hope you've enjoyed my ramblings. I don't always want to be a misery, I swear to you. I would love to compliment this series at some point, but they need to earn it first. Also, please just put fucking moth people in this game. Normal videos will return after this, but let me know your thoughts, and if you'd like more of these in-depth analysis on other games that aren't Destiny. So as always, thanks for watching. All comments and ratings are very much appreciated. I'll see you next time. Bye!